Hi, Spring Arbor students. Welcome to week 5. We're heading towards the end. Hope your week is going well. Today I'm going to be covering real briefly the highlights of chapters 16, 17, and 18. And I do want to talk a few minutes about the project that's due this week. It's a little bit different than what we've been working on. So I wanted to bring you up to speed on that. Okay, so first the highlights. Chapter 16. Chapter 16 talks about sampling. And this is pretty obvious, but you can't hit 100% of the population that you want to hit, so you have to sample. And I'm pretty sure you learned that in your stats class a few courses ago. So sampling is a way to practically get information for your research question, but having to spend a lot less time and money to get there. So you're going to sample. Page 387 talks about some of the practical aspects of sampling. In fact, Exhibit 16.1 is one of those that you want to check out. Page 392, interesting discussion between the probability versus non-probability sampling. And in the non-probability sampling, there's a few different types. There's convenience sampling, judgment sampling, and then quota sampling. Talk to you for a minute just about the convenience sampling. So one of the action research projects that I'm working on at school, that's the sampling method that we use. It's a little bit of randomness. I'm interviewing families qualitatively, put their names in a hat, draw their names out. That's the random part of it. But what we also do then is contact them to see if they in fact can come in for a meeting at a scheduled time. So if they can, that's the convenient side. If not, we just move on to somebody else. So we set up a time, date, and whoever can make it there. So that's an example of a convenience sampling plan. Page 401, exhibits 16.8 and 16.4. Both are pretty good summaries of the sampling techniques that the chapter talks about. So if you don't read anything else, at least hit those exhibits, 16.8 and 16.9. And here's a hint. It'll probably help you on one of those case studies. Case study, I think it's 16.1. So hint, hint to that one. Chapter 17 talks about sampling size and descriptive and inferential statistics. You've already covered some of that in your stats class, so I'm not going to hit it here. So review it as much as you want to, but there's probably not much anything new in there for you. All right, chapter 18 talks about fieldwork and in particular interviewing. If you had a chance to use your questionnaire during week 4 when you're doing your project for week 4 where you had to go out and try it out a little bit, that's kind of an experience that you'd have in the field. The awkwardness of trying to survey for the first time, people kind of looking at you strange, all those, that's part of the fieldwork experience. There's a pretty good description of the basics of interviewing on page 449. I want you to pay particular attention to, or it says under the basics, there's 7 points. Take a look at point number 7. The point is you have to respect the rights and the emotions of those that you're interviewing. Sometimes you're going to find during an interview somebody gets angry, they get mad, they cry, and if they ask for a moment, you have to give it to them. Okay, don't keep pressing forward. That's kind of against the ethics of when you interview, unless of course you have their permission to keep going even when they're emotionally distraught. So, but in our IRB process here at Spring Arbor, you'll find that that's not the case. If people are emotionally distraught, got to call a break for the interview, respect their rights, and then pick it back up. So speaking of the IRB and the Human Subjects Review Board process, that's the project for this week. So I'm going to spend a couple minutes talking about that with you as well. So the project this week is to create a draft of 3 different documents. The Human Subjects Review Board approval document, the application. And by the way, side note, when you hear the terms HSRBE, that's Human Subjects Review Board, or the IRB, the Internal Review Board, those terms are synonymous. They mean the same things. Different universities call them different things. So first document is a draft of the Human Subjects Review Board application. That's document number 1, draft. Document number 2 is going to be a cover letter. I'll explain what the cover letter is. And then document number 3 is the informed consent. I'll hit that as well. So these are not scary documents, not as scary as it sounds or as overwhelming as it sounds. We're going to do a draft of them right now during this class, and then you'll finish them up in Management 600 and actually submit your documents to the Internal Review Board Committee at Spring Arbor. So this class is all about just creating drafts of those. So keep in mind the application for the Human Subjects Review Board, it's a summary of your chapters 1, 2, and 3 that you've already been working on during this course. So if you've been keeping up to date, keeping up to speed, writing chapters 1, 2, and 3 for the projects that we've been working on, this is going to be a really easy thing for you to do. You're basically going to condense all the material you've been working on in this class. You're going to condense it down to like a sheet and a half of an application is basically what it amounts to. So it should be pretty easy for many of you. Let's talk about the HSRBE application for just a moment, the Human Subjects Review Board application. It's, like I said, it's about a page and a half, maybe 2. And if you look at the email that I'm sending this video out with, there's 3 draft documents attached, or sample ones. One of them is for the HSRBE. Got this from Ina, so I'm pretty sure it's good to go. And it's a very simple document. Again, you're going to condense 3 chapters of material down into the questions that are asked for on the HSRBE. Now that's document number 1 that's due this week. Document number 2 is the cover letter. Now the cover letter is just nothing more than a simple invitation to your participants when you ask them to participate with you in the research that you're doing. So keep in mind, it's a letter basically, and it just very briefly describes in one sheet what you're doing, what their role would be, and how this would benefit them. And you can do this, that cover letter goes out by mail, email, you might even hand deliver it. Okay, it doesn't have to be long, but I have attached a sample of the one that I used when I was doing some work up at EMU for my dissertation. Use it. If it's helpful to you, use it. The third document that's due this week is the informed consent document. When you have your participants sat down, if you're going to sit down and do an interview with somebody, they must sign the informed consent document. It is like an agreement or a contract between you and them about what you're going to ask them, how you're going to ask them, and it gives them a listing of their rights. It also tells them what's going to happen to the data. So it's a document that you create to be completely transparent with your participants, and they must sign it, non-negotiable. They have to sign it, or they have to give electronic signature to it. So either hand signature, electronic signature works. Again, I attached an informed consent document from when I was working on my dissertation at EMU. Pick it up, use it. It passes the muster for EMU, and I'm sure it'll pass the muster for Spring Arbor. And don't use it exactly as is, because it is not quite the same as your research, but go ahead and modify it, change it, and you'll get the idea once you pull it up and look at it. Okay, so again, there's 3 documents due this week, loaded up into Blackboard. Document number 1 is a draft of the Human Subjects Review Board application. Document number 2 is a draft of the cover letter that you're going to give to your participants once the HSRBE approves you in Management 600. Document number 3 is the informed consent. Again, you'll be using this in Management 600. It's just a draft right now. So, okay, those got to be uploaded in Blackboard by next Sunday midnight. Hope you have a great week this week. Let me know if you want to spend a little bit of time on Zoom chatting. Thank you.